You have that one in the app there. Oh, okay. I need to come check it out.
All the mics and everything. Mics are on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, right. I'd love to come check it out. All right. Everybody. Okay. So. Ready? Yeah. It was here. It's in the back. I know. I talked to him. Hold on. I know. He was with Trump. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's fine. Perfect. So they're
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Yep, I think so. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I did. Good job, some of it. It's right.
All right, fingers crossed.
We have a couple other concert teams as well. For the most part, we kind of look something.
Mr. Vice Chair, I think that we're ready from a technology front. You go for it.
Call to order this planning and zoning commission meeting for Thursday, February 20th at 9:02 a.m. 9:03 a.m. First item on the agenda, roll call.
Chairman Meninga is absent. Vice Chair Klob.
Here.
Member Delgado. Someone line, I believe. Oh, no, he's here.
No, he left.
He left. Oh,
He
okay.
didn't need to leave.
Was here. Member Hartman.
Here.
Member Keller.
Here.
Member Lizarraga. Here. Member Chef.
Here.
Member Davilia. Absent. Member Mooney.
Present.
Member Pronzo.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Very good, thank you. Planning manager report.
Just two things. I wanted first to introduce, we have a new planning tech, Corey Bush. He's a graduate of NAU with a GIS degree. We're used to, prior to this, he worked at the Forest Service. And also, I just wanted to announce that the Santan Valley Comp Plan Amendment and rezoning was approved unanimously by the BOS yesterday at their regular meeting. So it'll be effective within 30 days. Just wanted to let you know that. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you, Harvey. Brent?
Mr. Vice Chair, I've got a couple of things. Number one, my apologies to the audience today for us being a few minutes late. We have a technology change that was incorporated today, and the commissioners were just handed a new piece of hardware. In the past, we've always had laptop computers. They got very long in the tooth, and we started having units fail. So we have replaced those with iPads. So for the commission, please stay after the meeting today because there's some paperwork you have to sign with respect to the new hardware you've received. So we're a couple minutes late because we got something new going on today. The second thing is you may have noticed a new addition that we're trying today, which is comment cards. The Planning and Zoning Commission has never had comment cards before, like the Board of Supervisors does. So we're rolling that out for the first time today. So staff was going around.
I'll be the Vanna White.
There you go. Staff was going around and providing them to folks that needed them. I just want folks to know that you don't have to fill out the comment card to speak on the items that are a public hearing. There will be a sign-in sheet, just like we always do at meetings, up at the podium. We just ask that when you go up and speak on that item that you sign in on the sign-in sheet. And I'm sure future changes to come as well in terms of process, but we're trying out the comment cards today, Mr. Vice Chair.
Very good. I know I've been a big fan of the comment cards in the past, so I'd like to see the change. Thank you. All righty. New cases. Let's see. Kendall, are you presenting on this one?
Yes.
PZ-017-24, public hearing and action.
All right. Good morning, Vice Chair, members of the commission. My name is Kendall Riley, title planner, and I'm here to present to you case PZ-017-24 and PZPD-011-24, Valley Farms Energy Center. This is a proposal for a rezone of 160 acres from GR to I3 and a planned area development overlay request for 160 acres with development standards to allow solar energy and best uses and restrict other industrial uses in the I3 zoning. Location is in the Coolidge Valley Farms area east of Highway 87 at the northeast or northwest corner of East Bartlett Road and North Clemens Road. Owner is Gregory and Laura Lee Wirtz Family Trust, and applicant agent is Ralph Pugh with Pugh and Lake. Here's a county map showing the approximate location marked by the red star. Project location and vicinity map. All the brown areas on the map are City of Coolidge. The gray area is general rural zoning, and in the blue is state land. Here's an aerial photo showing the development patterns in the area. It is mostly used for agricultural uses with some low density residential surrounding. Project details is 10 megawatts of solar energy will be generated with this project with a battery energy storage system. Typical components with a solar field, you have PV modules, electric collection systems, site substation is being proposed, the battery storage system, and associated civil infrastructure. They are proposing to tie into the existing Able to Randolph transmission line. Just some surrounding information, mostly agricultural land with a few agricultural canals, flat topography throughout the site, and low density residential surrounding. Comprehensive plan amendment was approved for this location in 2023 with the case PZPA 005-22. Preliminary site plan applicant provided. Applicant is proposing a 100-foot setback around the entire property. On the east side of the property will be the solar arrays. On the west side will be transmission lines and the battery energy storage facility. Site postings on sites. Signs were posted every quarter mile surrounding where there was a road. Some items of consideration. The project does meet the green energy production designation that was approved under the previous case in 2023. This proposal is only a portion of what was approved in that comprehensive plan amendment. And applicant is providing an additional 50 feet from the minimum setback of I3. To date, we have 6 letters of opposition. There are concerns with the battery energy solar or system, with concerns with environmental impacts to surrounding animals and neighbors. There is also concerns with a loss of rural lifestyle in that area. We have not received any agency comments. 2 cases with 22 stipulations for each. Do you have any questions for staff?
I have a quick housekeeping one I need to add, and I apologize, Kendall. This is also, I'm going to look to the attorney for this question. I only called the first case. Can I add the second case after we've already had the staff presentation?
Yes, sir. You can also. I'm sorry. Yes, Chair. Good morning, Darren Gary, County Attorney's Office. If the 2 matters are being heard together, you can call both matters. There would have to be separate votes on the matters, but staff can give one presentation. But again, there would need to be 2 separate votes on the matters.
Very good. So
and
oh,
I'm
yes.
sorry. And you can also have a joint public hearing on both. I would advise that the public be informed that they would be allowed to speak on both of the items when they come up to speak.
Very well. Thank you. Yeah, so this item, the items we're hearing is in this presentation is PZ-01724 and PZ-PD011-24, and public hearing, public discussion will be on both cases. Thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none. Would the applicant like to give a presentation?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Ralph Pugh. My office is in Mesa, and I'm here on behalf of NextEra Energy Resources for this project that is a subsidiary of that company known as Valley Farms Energy Center, LLC. As we get started here, commissioners, please understand we have read the staff report and agree with all the stipulations and conditions that are included in the staff report. So we've worked on that and understand them and agree with them. We have a team here of folks from NextEra that are available to answer the really difficult questions you might have today. With us is Miss Ashley Johnson, who is our project manager. Ashley, right there. We have Kyle Whittier with us, who's the director. We have Joss Adams, our fire expert. And where did Maggie go? Maggie somewhere. Maggie Patel is our community outreach director. So hopefully they can answer difficult questions if we have those. Also in the audience is Mr. Greg Wirtz, who is the property owner, and he's here and available to speak to you or answer questions that you might have. So as as Kendall indicated, we are here to talk about a zoning case and a PAD amendment that goes with that case for a project that was discussed and decided and voted on 2 years ago. It began in, actually Visionary began in 20 and 21, but the case matured in 22. And this commission listened to that case. You heard it. You were there. You listened to it. It was a request to amend the comp plan, right, from general rural to green energy. And that case had plenty of input, lots of discussion. As members of the commission, you felt inclined to recommend denial of that case. That case then went to the Board of Supervisors a month or two later, as typical. And the Board of Supervisors then unanimously approved the comp plan amendment to enable green energy production on this site. And so we come here today now to take the next step in this zoning process, which now is to bring the zoning into consistency with the comp plan. Today, the zoning is general rural. We are asking this commission to recommend approval of 2 procedural items. 1, rezone from general rural to green energy production, and 2, adopt the development plan. It's referred to as a preliminary development plan that goes with the property. As we get into this in just a minute, I don't intend to take too long, but the development plan is a critical part of these cases. Typically, you use PADs in cases to deviate from setbacks or to deviate from parking requirements or any standard deviation. In this case, the PAD is being used to lock in, for lack of a better word, the uses that are shown on the development plan, so that it will, we know what's happening, we can see it, and that's where the tool will be used there. So with that, Mr. Chairman, let's see if I can figure out how to do this. I want you to know that NextEra Energy Resources has been in business in the renewable energy side for at least 20, 25 years. They have projects all across the country in 41 states and Canada. NextEra is a leader. They're not coming to this area or to this business in the last 6 months or year or two. They've been around a long time and have lots of projects, as you can see. In Arizona, here's what we have. It's important to note that we have 3 energy centers, 4 projects that are known as battery storage sites. We have 5 utility scale solar and other things. The interesting part about this too is we have 32 distributed energy projects. Distributed energy projects are much different than utility scale projects. Distributed energy projects are a group or a collection of small scale energy production that unites itself in a pattern and a form that generates the power necessary to be used in the system. So it's a different concept and it's used here extensively. I think the interesting thing here too to note is that in 2023, NextEra paid $3.2 million in property taxes for the sites, and there is money generated from that. The details of that we might talk about later if you have questions about it. So the other thing to keep in mind, and then we'll get right to it, that NextEra has come to Pinal County, Coolidge, Eloy, other cities, and has been very, very active in the community. This is just a sampling of the entities with which NextEra has partnered and has ventured with and has become a part of. And because we realize the importance of community networking and working together for a common goal. So in this particular case, as Kendall outlined for you, where it is and the size of it, we have had significant community outreach. We had a neighborhood meeting as this case all began, roughly 50 to 60 people there. And then it dawned on us as we got closer to, it takes months to bring these cases to you. It dawned on us that we need to reach out to others. So we went a half a mile around the border because there were residential properties, ranchettes in that vicinity. And so we reached out to them and sent another letter out, invited them to call us, to send us an email, or that we would meet with them. So we know the importance of that, and we have done that. We've reached out to county officials and also had significant contact with fire departments. And Ashley Johnson's here. If you have questions about that, what we've done with the fire, she can answer that, along with James, who is our subject matter expert. So let's take a look now at what we're really doing here with this zoning case. Those are the two requests as I indicated before. This case was approved 2 years ago by the Board of Supervisors for green energy. And now we're coming to do two things: rezone general rural to I3, because I3 is the category where these type of projects reside, and to get a PAD development plan on the property, all consistent with the comprehensive plan today. When you think of the comprehensive plan as a massive guiding document for the county, in this small 160 acres, we are totally consistent with what's expected and anticipated from this property. Should this project be approved, which we ask you to recommend approval on and the supervisors to approve, we should be operational in 2026 or early 2027. Here is an area context map for all of us to take a quick look at. So this property is on the eastern edge of Coolidge. You can see it in red. They're about 4 miles from the center of Coolidge as it exists today. We all know that Coolidge will grow, it will develop, it will mature, things will change there. We're on the far fringe of that just before you get to the two canals and ultimately to the airport. The nearest project to ours is about a mile. That's called the Brittle Brush Solar Project. We have the Story and the Saint Project further to the south. So that map gives you a pretty good context as to where the 160 is and where it's located. The next exhibit is the development plan. This is at this stage in the process, this is referred to as a preliminary development plan, because this sets the stage for what the ultimate site plan will be when it's approved. So all projects go through this, and here we have the arrays, we have the battery storage, we have the laydown yard, the retention area, and the interesting thing about this project is we have the switch yard and substation, which will be operated by others. And it's important to know that the substation is critical, right, to modulate the difference in voltage that occurs, and the switch station is critical as it relates to turning on and off the power and regulating the flows of where it goes. The other very important element is that red line on the bottom of the map. That is the Abel Moody 240 transmission line. And that's exactly why this is the right spot and the right location for this project and to implement the comprehensive plan as it has now been approved. So quickly now, board members, commission members, when you consider a case, you always see in your staff report a paragraph, and it talks about 5 different things. Not necessarily referred to as findings, I've just called them findings today. Is this project necessary at this location and at this time? What's the impact on adjoining property owners, right? And does it promote orderly growth and development? And does it proceed and follow the goals of the comprehensive plan? Those are the issues that commissioners and ultimately the supervisors should be analyzing as you look at this case, as found in the staff report to you. So let's take a quick look at some of those and see if we can answer the question. Why is this project needed and necessary at this particular location, right? I mean, that's a good question. It's really simple, commissioners. This 160 has been designated for green energy. The comp plan calls for it to be green energy, and we're implementing it. It has now been enabled to have a zoning case come to it that would enable that use. It's adjacent to the existing infrastructure that I just mentioned about the transmission line. It also has minimal residency adjacency to it, very minimal, and This has strong property owner interest. The Wirtz family is very interested in selling this property. You can talk to Mr. Wirtz about that if you'd like and as to why. But it's also reflective, I think, of kind of the attitude we have in Pinal County about private property rights. This is what Mr. Wirtz would like to do with his land, and it is totally consistent with the comprehensive plan as it exists today. So why is it needed at this time, right? That's a good question too. We are under contract with an Arizona utility. We call ourselves contracted property. That's what that means. We don't talk about those partnership relationships until they're fully disclosed and there's an announcement about it. But we do have a contract with an Arizona utility. But why at this time? Why would NextEra be here to produce solar energy if it wasn't needed? It's needed to provide, just like we say here, grid stability, affordability, and availability. And especially as I think about the city of Coolidge and their aspirations, I know they have a general plan, they have goals and objectives for economic development. This project, along with maybe others that will contribute in this vicinity, will provide the sustainable energy that will induce commercial and industrial users to come, without which it won't. There won't be that power. There won't be that consistency and reliability of that power source. So we think this is needed at this time to answer the demand that has been created in this area. How will it affect adjacency of property owners? Well, inherently, it's a quiet use. We have agreed to comply with all the sound ordinances, whatever the ordinances about noise penetrating or trespassing it beyond our property line. We will moderate that, we'll mitigate that, whatever it takes. So we don't think noise will be a problem. There's buffering. When you get to the site plan, you typically don't see that as commissioners, but the site plan will have landscaping. As we mentioned earlier, there is an excessive amount of landscape setback. We're adding more, as Kendall indicated earlier in her plan. We have many fire protocols. If you're interested in that, in a few minutes, we could have James come forward and answer any specific questions you may have about fire. He's well prepared on that and very knowledgeable. And finally, decommissioning. That's critical in these type of cases. And what we've agreed to and what most developers should agree to is that all decommissioning, to take the site back to where it is now, is the burden and financial responsibility of the operator and the owner of the project. So we understand that, we commit to that, and we'll live by that requirement. We do have fire safety protocols, as I indicated, that James can talk about, or Josh can talk about here in just a minute. Decommissioning, I don't want to bother you all with the details of how that works unless you have specific questions. The next question on your list for findings is, does it promote orderly growth in the county, right? So, of course, as I said before, in our opinion, the reliability of the grid system and its sustainability and the fact that it's going to always be there and work is critical to development. What does development need? What does Coolidge need to develop out here? Roads, water, sewer, power, right? All those things need to come together, and we're doing our part to bring that together so that good things can happen in this area. With respect to the jobs and the taxation, there's been a lot of discussion about that, a lot of different opinions. Our opinion is there is tax benefits from this project, both to the county and local cities. But for sure, whether we can debate the amount of tax and how it's calculated and whether it is there or not, for sure what's there is the multiplier effect. Without uses of this nature, and this one in particular, other businesses would not have the ability to thrive. They wouldn't trust the source. They wouldn't trust the reliability of the power. Here, we're opening that up, and it will multiply through the community and open those doors. So that's how we feel about the growth and development opportunity. Finally, the other finding here has to do with, does this request comply with the county's comprehensive plan requirements? And we could go through land use and environmental stewardship and economic development and read each one of them. But just take the environmental stewardship. The comprehensive plan, a sustainable community is one that meets the needs by using resources efficiently. The County Board of Supervisors decided that issue 2 years ago and changed the comp plan for the very reason that the project does support and advance the goals of the comprehensive plan. So it's inherent in that decision. Finally, I'll be quiet here, Commissioner, in just a second. Why is this important? I think we all guide land use decisions by looking at the comprehensive plan. Cities and municipalities use a general plan. It's the same idea. It's a long-term framework to make zoning decisions. That's what zoning decisions are based on, is the comp plan. This language comes straight from the comp plan. The Pinal County Comprehensive Plan is a landmark document that will serve and steer the county in a positive course. So think about those words right there. The plan articulates the vision and outlines the strategic direction of the county. Those decisions, those factors, those findings were all decided by the Board of Supervisors in early 2023. And today we're here to enable and implement that in the form of the zoning case that takes the general rural to the green energy production category. We appreciate your attention, commissioners. We're grateful for the time. The one thing I would like to mention before I sit down is the north-south corridor. This transportation corridor that exists and is being, not as exists, it exists in a concept, right, is critically important to Pinal County. It starts on the 10, it will start on the 10 somewhere between Arizona City and Picacho Peak, somewhere in that area. It weaves its way north, ultimately to kind of the confluence of Gold Canyon and Apache Junction as Apache Junction continues to grow east. So we do need that transportation corridor. As Next Era Energy Resources and as this particular project, we're aware of that. We have met with ADOT. We've talked to them about it. This plan takes years in the planning to get a transportation corridor like that done. Takes years to plan, takes more years to budget and to fund. And so we met with ADOT and they asked us to do two things. One, they said, continue on with your zoning case and your plan. And number two, include your plan in a letter to ADOT requesting when they get to tier 2 of 3 or 4 tiers of studies, they know where your plan is, they'll be aware of it, and they can make decisions accordingly. So we're not oblivious to the north-south corridor. It is critical. And we see a lot of development occurring because of that corridor when it's ultimately built. And we're aware of that, and we don't want to be inimical to it or harmful in any way. So with that, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for your attention. If you have specific questions now or after the public appears, we'd be happy to answer them because we got the experts here behind me. And if I could, Mr. Chairman, if there are comments from the public, if I could have a moment to respond, if appropriate, that would be good. Any questions, I'd take them.
Bring it back to the dais. Any questions for the applicant?
I just,
Commissioner Mooney.
I have a couple of questions. One is on the decommissioning process. Have you had to do that for any other projects, whether here in Arizona and other areas? What is that process?
Yeah, Commissioner Mooney, can I turn to Josh? Have we done that yet? And I'm assuming our projects are young enough, they haven't been decommissioned yet. That would be my guess.
Hi, Josh Adams, engineering manager. No, projects typically have a lifespan of about 20 to 25 years. So they're actually haven't, at least in NextEra's portfolio, we haven't decommissioned any, but we do submit decommissioning plans. So those plans are in place. We already have the processes in place. It's always going to, technology is going to improve 20 to 25 years from now. The process will only improve and will restore the land to its original state. So it can be reused for what its intended purpose was prior to this system being installed.
We don't have them often, but we do have hailstorms. So that's why I was wondering if you had to, because I have seen some that the panels get pretty much obliterated from hailstorms. And I would assume those would either be decommissioned or cleaned up and put back into place.
Yeah, so decommissioning is typically referring to the end of life of the project,
Okay.
where the project is dead and you're pulling it back out. When panels get damaged, the glass on these panels is kind of like your windshield, right? It shatters, but it doesn't actually let anything out. It keeps everything safe, everything's in, and the panels just get replaced, right? It gets damaged and it just becomes a piece of equipment that needs to be swapped out. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I have a question for the same
Mr.
person. If you'll come back to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm like you, I run away from microphones too. I understand the concept and the comprehensive plan, but it's not often we get a company or an organization as large as yours with the amount of experience that you have that comes in front of us and allows us to ask a question. One of the rubs with solar power is batteries. Now, statistically speaking, because I've heard this gentleman here speak that you have solar farms all over the country and in Canada. So statistically, how often does a solar farm have a battery fire?
Well, so I mean, technically, the solar farm and the battery are kind of almost two different systems. Statistically, the American Clean Power has come out with the rate of failure for battery energy storage systems or battery cells is 1 in 10 to 40 million cells.
Why don't you break that down for me?
I mean, I can't necessarily speak to other companies.
I'm
Basically,
not asking you
I
to.
guess
I'm speaking to your company.
Yeah. So we've only ever had one incident, and we are the largest battery energy storage developer in North America. So we've only
Okay.
ever had one, and it was isolated and contained to the container in which it happened.
And considering your background, if you would, kind of give me an inkling, what causes these fires?
There are a few different things that can cause it. Primarily, I'd say the most common is water infiltration. Water getting on the battery, somehow leaking in, or heavy rains. And so these newer systems are designed to be protective against heavy, strong, wind-driven rains. To protect that. And then the battery management systems are built in and specifically tested and certified for thermal runaway prevention. So they'll identify other causes like over voltage, overcharging, under voltage, over discharging. Those things can cause a thermal runaway event as well. But the battery management system is specifically tested and certified to UL 1973 to be able to demonstrate that it will identify that abnormal situation and isolate the system before it escalates to that worst case.
So you have protocols in place
Absolutely.
that help prevent.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a multiple layers of safety protocols in place. Yes.
Okay, and this system communicates. Most solar farms really are remotely controlled.
Mm-hmm.
We have two here in Florence, and although you're quite a bit further south, so to speak, this makes the perfect triangle.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've answered all. Well, compare it to something else like my chances of being hit by a bus and you having a battery fire.
Honestly, I can't necessarily speculate on this. I don't know the statistics of the chance of you getting hit by a bus. I do know basically, EPRI, the Electrical Power Research Institute, has done a lot of studies. They analyze and they have a whole database of battery energy storage events that have occurred. And since 2018, there has been a 97% decrease in the frequency of events.
Okay.
The technology and the codes and standards have increased or improved significantly over
well,
the
the
years.
reason I'm taking you through this whole Chinese fire drill is because when I listen to the public, that is their number one concern.
Mhm.
Air pollution from a battery fire that may not be controlled because of the remote location of these facilities.
Yeah, so when it comes to, we'll start with controlled, right? So these systems are in isolated 20-foot, essentially shipping containers, right? So they're isolated from one another. They're not big building-based systems or anything like that. So if a thermal event were to occur in one of those containers, it will be isolated. They're designed and specifically tested to prove that they will not spread to the neighboring container in the case of an event. And if you look at any of the data from any past energy storage fires that have occurred, like the ones in California that have occurred recently, or Escondido, you could check the escondido.gov website. They've released reports for air quality and water quality showing that there was no risk of contamination to the surrounding areas.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your patience. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll be here if you have more questions. So.
I'll work on it.
All right.
And Commissioner Pranzo, I don't think there's a lot of buses in Florence, just for the record. Commissioner Hartman.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. My question was very similar, if not the same. I was curious on the batteries and the protocol you'd mentioned during your presentation. You could explain that to us. I think you covered some of it with the commissioner's questions, but again, my concern would be if a fire breaks out, how are you going to control it? And who's going to stop the fire? Is a local fire department signed up with you guys to do it, or?
So we do provide training to the fire departments. So we do that at multiple levels. National Fire Protection Association 855, NFPA 855 is the standard for the installation of stationary energy storage systems. That requires that we submit an emergency response plan and that we do emergency response plan trainings as well as annual refresher trainings. We go above that, and I actually go meet with the fire departments and give them a kind of a primer, an education session on batteries. So it's not specifically this is what you do at the site, but this is how batteries work. These are the risks that you could face. This is the approach, and the actual approach. Our number one priority is safety of people in the surrounding areas. So that's why these systems are designed with those multiple layers of barriers. Like I mentioned, we had one event. It was actually isolated to the one rack within the container. It didn't even spread throughout the whole container. So they're built and designed and tested with physical barriers to prevent the spread. Once thermal runaway has begun in a cell, it's a chemical reaction in the cell that can't be stopped. And so we actually very specifically recommend against any active suppression efforts because we don't want those firefighters putting themselves at risk at all, right? So their safety is the utmost importance. That small piece of property is just a piece of property, right? It can be replaced. People's lives can't be replaced, right? So safety is the only thing that we really care about. So they set up a perimeter approach, right? Their response is to make sure that even though the system is designed and tested that it's not going to spread, their job is to make sure that, say, nothing reaches the surrounding vegetation, right? But that basically it's very much a perimeter defensive approach. We don't want them actively going in and trying to fight these fires.
Vice Chair. Okay, thank you. That helps. So basically, if in a rare case where it does catch on fire, you let it burn. And
yeah, for lack of a better term, yeah, basically you allow the built-in protection systems to terminate the fire itself.
And I think the community surrounding this piece of property is then concerned about the smoke. But earlier you said that there's no harm.
Correct. Yeah, the plume that comes off of a battery energy storage container is primarily hydrocarbons. Beyond hydrocarbons, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. That's actually what comes out of the batteries themselves. Beyond that, it's identical to any other small structure, very small building, right? It's got electrical wires, it's got electrical circuits, it's got insulation in the walls, right? It's no different than any other small structure fire. So they go up, they dissipate quickly, and the plume does not reach the surrounding areas, especially with the types of setbacks that we have at these sites.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Vice Chair, I have a question.
Just now.
Couple with you. So these are in containers. What is the percentage or confidence level that if a full cell meltdown happened, that it would be contained in that container? Without the container, I mean, obviously it would get to an extreme heat that it would melt. But what is the separation between the other containers?
That separation is kind of determined by the manufacturer's recommendations. But again, as I mentioned, they test them to show that with the separation that they've recommended that you're not going to actually have a spread. So as an engineer, I can never say 100% because I'm an engineer, but I mean, I'm 99% confident that it's not gonna spread.
Okay, you don't have any data or record of anything that you could share with us on prior meltdowns that you've had, and
I
how it was
mean,
contained within that one area?
We've only had the one, but for example, if you look at the Escondido fire that happened, that was a containerized system. And if you watch like the interviews from the fire chief, he basically very clearly states that the safety standards did what they were supposed to do, and the fire didn't spread. I only know of maybe a couple where it has spread, and that was, you know, some design flaws that were identified and remedied, but those were not NextEra systems, so I can't really speak too much to those.
Do each of these containers have their own suppression for fires, or you said earlier that if it got to a point, you would advise the fire department to let it burn?
Yeah, so they have their own built-in fire safety detection systems,
Just detection.
deflagration and protection. So they've got protection, you know, pressure relief panels, or gas detection and exhaust systems. But kind of as I mentioned, we very actively do not recommend suppression of a battery energy storage fire. As I mentioned, there's a thermal runaway is once it's happened within a cell, you're not going to stop it in that cell. So your objective is to stop it from spreading to the next cell and to the next module and to the next rack. If you have thermal runaway, for lithium ion batteries, you are releasing hydrogen, and hydrogen is explosive. So if you have a thermal runaway and you have a fire, that fire is burning that hydrogen, and you don't have any risk of any explosion. And that is the safest course of action. So that's why we don't recommend suppressing it, because if you put the fire out and the thermal runaway continues, then you have gas buildup, right? And that's where, you know, it actually becomes a danger. So that's where safety is our number one approach, and it is safer to just allow the system to burn itself out.
And I see that in our packet that the fire department is Coolidge, correct?
I believe so. I believe this is right on the border of.
We've had conversations with the regional fire department.
Sorry, if you can come up and state your name for the record, please.
Ashley Johnson. We've met with the regional fire department, and they will be expanding their territory to cover this project.
Okay, that would be the city of Coolidge. Is that or is it rural metro?
It's the volunteer regional fire
Oh, okay.
department.
Understand. Thank you. I guess I have a question for Mr. Pugh. Thank you. On this land, is this a leased project? I didn't see that part in here, or is this company purchasing the land from the family?
It's my understanding that we're purchasing
Purchasing.
the land
Okay.
from the Wirtz.
And I know you don't have a lot of information to give, but as far as this contracting with the AZ Utility Company, is it 100%?
The answer to that is yes. There is a power purchase agreement in place for this project.
Yeah, I assume there's some kind of start to end date with that company.
There is. I didn't draft that agreement or be a part of it, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there is those provisions in it.
Okay. But for the meantime, to start out, there would be a contracted utility for the power that is generated.
Well, there would be contracted utility for whatever might be produced there on the site, right?
Yes.
The energy and the batteries, all of it. It would encompass that.
Yeah. I think it's it. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I got one more question for the fireman.
Commissioner Pronto.
Told you I would work on it. It took me a while, but.
Well, mission accomplished, huh?
I'm a retired mechanical engineer. So I worked with codes like ASME, APIs, things like that.
Mhm.
Excuse me, Commissioner, I'm not sure if your microphone is on for the record.
My apology. Are there, codes are a very interesting aspect of our society because they evolve.
Mhm.
Typically, insurance companies and people of that nature are involved in bringing code about. They bring the statistics, the problems to the front. I'm interested to know, particularly where these battery enclosures, the batteries themselves, are there any codes that are evolving to bring safety more and more based on incidents?
Yes, absolutely. So the codes have there's been new versions of codes that have come out, right? So the first, there's the one I mentioned before, NFPA 855, right? NFPA 855 is the standard for the installation of stationary energy storage systems. So it governs all aspects and for guidance on what to do. So commissioning plans, decommissioning plans, hazard mitigation analysis, emergency response plans, fire safety system design. Beyond that, then NFPA 855 requires that, for example, your fire safety system must be in compliance with NFPA 72, which is the fire alarm signaling code and standard. Just breaking down, NFPA 855 requires that the entire battery energy storage system be listed or certified to UL 9540. UL 9540 is a safety testing standard for battery energy storage systems. UL 9540 further requires the UL 1973 that I had mentioned previously.
I'm going to retain about none of this.
Yeah, so yes, there
you-
are multiple layers of new standards, and I actually sit on task groups for the NFPA 855.
And the follow-up question, is there third-party inspection involved in the manufacture of this equipment?
Maybe not necessarily in the manufacture, but there's definitely third-party involvement in, say, the commissioning of the project, right? So when we get a project commissioned on site, for the fire safety system is commissioned and signed off by a licensed fire protection engineer in that state.
Okay, that really, you've gift wrapped it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vice Chair, if I may.
Mr. Mooney.
Oh, don't sit down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
It was mentioned earlier that sometimes these are remotely operated, so there's really nobody on site.
Correct.
So, and there's equipment that tells somebody there's a fire. So how does that system work to then get to the fire department?
Yeah, so it kind of works depending on what the fire department requires, right? So we work with them to make sure whatever works for them. So we have a 24/7, 365 operated, what's called a Renewable Operations Control Center, or the ROC. And that is, they're monitoring our entire portfolio. So there are built-in physical layers of protection that can, automated systems, built in that can detect something abnormal and isolate. Or if some abnormal condition arises, our ROC will be notified. They will then reach out and dispatch our O&M, our operations and maintenance crews, as well as they'll investigate, determine if dispatching the fire department is necessary. Sometimes fire departments require that we have a dedicated line to them. So anytime there's alarm, they receive the call automatically. But we find that our ROC is generally better. They're very well trained. They know how to identify a problem, and they would prevent, say, dispatching fire department for a false alarm.
That's a little disconcerting if there's an alarm that's gone off and there's nobody on site. I would think that somebody would still want to go out and make sure.
Well, yes, our operations and maintenance crews will be living and stationed in the area, so they'll be able to be dispatched to the site very quickly.
So they would go check it rather than having the fire department go check for.
Correct. Yeah, the NextEra operations and maintenance crews, they would be the first dispatched to the site by our ROC, and they would make a determination if we need to dispatch the fire department.
That could put a bit of a delay. And what sorts of equipment does the fire department need to have? And was that all in place prior to this project actually opening and using its?
So due to the safety approach of just maintaining a perimeter approach, the fire department doesn't need any special equipment. They only need the water that is already on their trucks to perhaps wet down the vegetation around the site. But the entire battery storage yard, everything inside the fence is completely cleared of vegetation. So really there's no means of propagation.
So if the fire were to take over that whole container and on the verge of exploding, they don't have any, you're not going to put water on a battery fire.
No, you're not going to put water on it. And if it's burning, if it's on fire, you've eliminated any risk of explosion, right? Okay. So if it's actually on fire, so it is the safest course of action to just allow that fire to terminate itself. And like I mentioned, they've been tested specifically to show that if one of them does catch on fire, the one right next door to it is not going to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? I have several.
Oh, go ahead.
You in a minute. Actually, Robert, like to talk to you about a couple things. So can you talk about you briefly touched on the north-south corridor highway,
Mhm.
you know, sometime in the future. Can you discuss a little bit, is there any kind of overlay showing how that, the planned area of that works with the site, or maybe this comes back to Kendall with staff? Do we know where that's going to go?
Mr. Vice Chair, member of the commission, we have some broad ideas as to where that's going to go, and ADOT has some maps of how they think it could happen, but how it occurs is sequential. So it begins with a really wide swath. I can't remember if it's a half a mile or a mile, but it's like a whole area going through Pinal County up on this corridor. Then that's one tier of study. Then they enter another tier of study and they shrink it down to a half mile and then to 1,500 feet or whatever. And eventually they get it to where it's buildable and usable. And that's how it just takes years and years to do that.
And I respect that. My concern with that is we recently had a case where things weren't properly aligned, and in the middle of a development case, we ended up having to completely reroute the road, bisect through another property owner's property, you know, as they came in for their development agreement. And it really put their property into an imposition because maybe we call it improper planning ahead of time. Yep. There was a completely different case, but what I'm trying to avoid is 10, 15 years from now, someone wants to, you know, develop next door, and now what you've done here creates an imposition on an adjacent property as they wish to develop.
No, Vice Chair Globe, that's exactly what happens sometimes, and it's unfortunate that it does. I don't know that that case involved a state highway or a major transportation corridor, but the state ADOT has a whole system of doing this, and they're so far, there's so much advanced time in the planning that to say today that our project would be an impediment to the north-south corridor is not true. That's why, that's what I'm trying
and I
to
apologize for interrupting you.
Yeah.
But my concern with that is Pinal County is also one of the fastest growing counties in the entire country.
Yes.
Things have a tendency of changing when change occurs and needing to occur. So this, in theory, could happen in the next 5 or 10 years. It could equally happen in the next 50.
Yeah.
We don't have that crystal ball.
That is exactly right, Vice Chair, but we also don't know the path exactly. And that changes over time until the channel, I call it a channel for the roadway, is established. When that's established and in place, and there's funding for that major roadway, then then issues arise as to whose land's it going to affect and what's going to happen. But in the meantime, this project, which is removable, right, under decommission status and is not permanent fixtures to the land, is the right use for this property while all this is being discussed. And frankly, it's going to help Coolidge. It's going to provide stability in the grid that's necessary for industry and commercial and other uses to come here. That's what they need, along with roads and water and a few other things, but it's going to happen. It's going to develop eventually, for sure.
It's my understanding that Bartlett Road is a planned arterial road or future, Brent, correct me on my terminology. Road of
I believe that
significance.
term is route of regional significance as determined by the RISRAM.
But according to your report, it only affects like a small little piece. Is the road going to die? Bartlett Road going to die there? Dead end? How does that play?
Now, Vice Chair, you're asking really difficult questions. Some really smart person needs to be here, but I can tell you what we know about it is we've planned this project with sufficient setback. So whatever dedications are needed and whatever development of Bartlett occurs, it's going to occur. But that's beyond our decision-making, right? The road could go clear past us or it could stop, right? I mean, you're going to run into the canal pretty quick when you go east of us and then east of the Nevitt property. So you know, I don't know how it terminates. We're not involved in the design of that.
Well, my concern with that is, you know, as it becomes a a significant road as planned.
Yeah.
That's also where other development is going to be. That's where other adjacent, properties are, in theory, going to, be it homes, be it whatever. And, having this, a project like this adjacent to this significant roadway, usually we try and take these off of the significant roadways. And now we're talking about a significant roadway and possibly a highway coming through the same property.
Or in the vicinity of it, right? That's what we think with respect to the north-south corridor. But with respect to Bartlett, it's not uncommon to have solar uses, utility scale uses, and or battery storage systems adjacent to major highways. You don't like to compare to other cities, but I live in the southeast area of Mesa, and there's battery storage. There's all kinds of things going along Signal Butte, which is a major arterial, and there's more coming. Because of the Elliott Road corridor there and all the data centers and everything. So we'll adjust to that. We will, if this project's approved, which we urge you to recommend approval, we will build it and use it. And whatever happens to Bartlett Road is going to happen. We're not going to get in the way of that. And we're not going to affect it.
And as part of, should this go forward and as part of the development agreement, would you be developing the half road of Bartlett? If and when that comes due?
Mr. Vice Chair, I don't remember were there dedication requirements in the STIPs, Kendall? I can't remember what they were.
It looks like there's dedication requirements for Clemens Road. But I don't see any provided for Bartlett. Let me see.
Yeah. Okay, because the power line. Yeah. Okay. Well, I missed it, Kendall. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry. There was a stipulation regarding Clemens Road, but I think with Bartlett, there was some easement concerns that we discussed.
Yeah, there are easement concerns and the Able Moody transmission line is there.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all those issues need to be dealt with too.
Okay.
That's the transmission line to connect this project. Yeah.
All right. Coolidge. Town of Coolidge, I believe you're in their overlay development zone for the general plan. What feedback have you received from the city of Coolidge? Support, denial?
Yeah.
I didn't see anything in
Mr. Vice Chair, when this case first came about a couple of years ago, Coolidge had representatives there who opposed the case. I can't remember all the reasons. Frankly, I wasn't involved with the case at the time, but I think it had to do with the north-south corridor and economic development potential in that area, and that the feeling was that this type of facility would deter that type of growth and that type of development. And I think there's someone here from Coolidge today, perhaps, that could speak to that. But again, our position about it is very clear. We think this project is helpful to it. And it's clear to me as I live every day in Southeast Mesa and I see what's there and I see new energy sources coming into what we all thought would be just, Salt River project would take care of us all. There'd be enough electricity. Well, there's a lot more going on than anybody ever thought. And that could happen here, very likely, but not immediately. And we're not going to bother anybody's long-range plans. We're beneficial to it, in our opinion.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Same related question as it relates to the Coolidge Airport.
Oh, the Coolidge Airport, Mr. Vice Chair and Commission members, is a one-runway airport that's been recently furbished and finished. The takeoff and landings do not intersect with this project. Those takeoff and landings go in the different direction. And we believe will have no impact on the airport whatsoever. In fact, the bigger issue is the transmission lines. If there was an issue, it would be the height of those, but not our project. The solar arrays won't affect that.
So the airport authority hasn't offered a position on that?
We haven't heard from the airport.
Okay. Staff have?
From my research, it looks like the city of Coolidge manages that airport. And I did reach out to them with the agency notification, but I have not received anything.
Great, thank you. And lastly, and this is where we might bring the engineer back up. Can we talk a little bit about the location of the battery storage and why it was placed along the road and you know, the pros and cons of that location. Or whoever would like to speak about it.
Hello, Ashley Johnson. So are you talking about its location along Bartlett Road?
And I don't have the map in front of me. To the west, it looks like there's a dirt road there that, you know, in theory could become another road for, yeah, there we go. That west side, I think there's a canal along that side. I believe there's a dirt road that runs north-south. You know, if the property to the west there develops, that could become a functional road for that property. And you know, 100 feet, couple hundred feet away, you know, now we have all this battery storage that we all know is a hot button.
Yeah. So the layout of this project was strategically placed because of the existing infrastructure. As Ralph has mentioned, there's the existing Able to Randolph 230 kV transmission line there. And you'll see to the south of that layout, we have the project substation and switchyard that would connect the project to the existing infrastructure. So that is why the project is in the location that it is because of the existing infrastructure.
I guess my question is more the location of those batteries. Why are they not more, you know, more centrally located on the property, surrounded by, you know, why isn't the laydown yard and retention area on the outside perimeter versus, you know, right in the middle?
As I think you mentioned, I am not an engineer, but I would like to note that we have a 100-foot setback from the perimeter of the property line, which we feel is sufficient enough to be safe to the neighbors.
I respect that, but at the same time, we also know that battery storage is, and this isn't a Pinal County thing, this is across the country, so this isn't anything new that you guys are hearing. It's a matter of maybe it's perception, maybe it's reality, maybe it's a combination of facts. But you know, it almost says by putting it that close to, you know, we have the road directly to the west there. We have the road on the north. Yes, there's a buffer. Yes, there's landscaping, but just as a good steward and, you know, hey, we're trying to help. We put it in the middle so it has less effect.
Okay.
Is that an option? You know, I'm trying to gauge what you know, maybe there's an engineering reason why it had to be where it's at.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. So Vice Chairman, as you can see, this is a preliminary development plan. We're not in the site planning stage yet, so I think that is absolutely something that we would be willing to work with the county and try to develop a site plan that the county approves of.
So if there was a stipulation to this agreement, you know, should it move forward? If there was a stipulation requiring that battery storage be all centrally located, you would be amenable to that.
Mr. Vice Chair, procedurally, that's doable, right? Because the site planning process comes after the zoning case and is handled administratively by the staff. So it would require some instructions from you to that effect. What I think why there's pause here, there's always engineering issues in doing something that seems so simple, right? Is to move that storage over and move the lay down yard and the retention to the west. But there might be engineering issues. But what we can tell you, we can look at that, right, Ash? I mean, if that's important to the county, we'll certainly look at that. And from an engineering point of view, it works. We could do that, and it could happen at site plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that. Oh, the last one. This is I think a question for staff, and maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know what records, Kendall, you have. Can you talk a little bit more about when planning and zoning denied this case initially? Was there an overwhelming, you know, I believe, Mr. Pugh, you had said that it was a unanimous decision to deny. Can you paraphrase kind of why it was denied?
No, I was not the case planner on that case, and I was not at the county at that time. So I don't know what the opposition was. Ralph, do you?
Yeah, I wasn't there.
I think Brent has some feedback here.
I'll do my best. That's been a long time ago, and there's been a lot of meetings that have happened since that time. I do recall that the hearing was in the old Board of Supervisors or the 1891 courthouse. I do recall that a number of people came out. I do recall that there was a expert there from a fire department. I want to say the Mesa Fire Department that testified on that case regarding battery energy storage and what have you, and his concerns as a firefighter. There were a number of folks from the community that brought forward a number of different concerns. Also in the audience that day was the city of Coolidge, where they spoke about their opposition to the case. So it was one of those meetings where there was a lot of people, there was a lot of comment, but of course I can't comment to why the commission made the decision that they made or why they voted at that time. But I do remember it being a large meeting with a lot of passionate comment.
Thank you. And that's all that I had. So
Thank you, Vice
any other comments from the dais?
Sorry, I have one more question if I may, Vice
Mr.
Chair.
Mooney.
You mentioned Coolidge needs power, but how much of this power, you can't determine how much of this power is actually going to stay in Coolidge. So when you made that comment, it's like this power is for sale and could end up in any other area of the state or another state.
Mr. Vice Chair and Commissioner Mooney, you are absolutely right. I didn't mean to say that they need power. What I was trying to say is that there's a synergistic effect of all of this. And it's not one molecule doesn't go here and there. And, we don't know exactly. But what we know is growth is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this valley now for 50 years grow. I've been involved in the land planning business for almost that long. I can remember we used to have to drive out to Dysart Road to get on the 10 to go to California, right? So things happen, freeways come, roadways come, and businesses need sustainability. If you want to attract Lowe's and if you want to attract Home Depot, and you want to attract developers that bring commercial uses and other things of that nature, they're coming to where they can rely upon the source of energy and utilities and roadways. Then they're interested. And when there's sufficient population, all of this is necessary to give that confidence, that's what I was trying to say, to the economic development world, those people and companies who spend their money and risk it to build businesses in areas that are developing. They want reliability.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? No. Hearing none, we will go to the public discussion part of this case. A couple of housekeeping things I want to address really quick. One item is it's been brought to my attention that this case is being, or this hearing today is being broadcast live on YouTube, so other people can watch it. I don't know how much that will be doing in the future, but as our technology advances, I think, probably will happen more. The couple other things that I need to address is any comments that you have for this. Number one, we're going to limit comments to 3 minutes, and please keep them about this case. I know a hot button recently has been the zoning draft. That's not on our agenda today. Please refrain from discussing it. There's nothing we can talk about at this point because it's not an agendized item. And the last one is we just want to maintain a professional environment. So, please no, clapping, cheering, yelling, screaming, be professional, and there won't be any challenges. So with that in mind, do we have a list from the comment cards or just?
Yes, we do.
And there is one comment. One citizen did have to leave, so they provided their comment in a letter if you would like to see as well. Dave will have that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Kendall, why don't we start off with reading that into the record? Just not only, we shouldn't put it to the discretion of the board to read it. We should let everybody know what that individual had to say.
Okay. Very good.
It looks like it is some articles provided for battery energy storage system fires, it looks like.
If there's not a written letter and nothing for you to read in the record, then we'll just give that to the text to make a copy of and make part of the record. I was under the understanding that there was talking points.
I thought there was a letter, but it looks like it is articles with some notes regarding some research that they completed.
Do you know the person's name so we can have that in the verbal record?
Brenda Hiscox
Okay,
at 1555 East Starview Lane.
thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Kendall. Andy Tobin is the first comment card I have.
Wow. Thank you, and thank you for your service. My name is Andy Tobin. I'm the director of Western Way. Basically, we promote energy and efficient energy and affordable energy and safe energy across the entire West. And it's nice to see you this morning, and I appreciate that. I know we were going to be on video. I would have advised my wife and made sure I had a better tie on so I could wave to her. But thank you for that and adding those technologies. I need to share with you that what I left for you is a report that we produce, and quite frankly, you're going to prepare for others around the entire state about the sincere concern that we have for quality energy and our growth. You might remember that I served in the legislature for 8 years, and I was at the Arizona Corporation Commission. Probably wasn't the energy world's favorite son, because I was one of those guys pushing back on our coal plants being closed because I thought they were being closed prematurely. And I thought we weren't going to be in a place with the rate of growth coming versus, what energy losses we were going to sustain from our coal. Obviously, I lost that fight. But what I didn't lose was the great respect I have for our utilities, who have done an incredible job in Arizona. As I've traveled the West and certainly back East, we have a lot of shortfalls, as I'm sure you know. Projects like these, especially in the West, especially in rural, add to our quality of life, which is across the board. And I agree with you when you're asking, well, does this atom stay here and does it go there? Is somebody else buying it? Those atoms sometimes used to come from up in Cayente, a coal mine that fueled Navajo Generating Station, which is no longer there, and other coal plants going away. What I enjoy about what's happening in Arizona and the leadership from Pinal County, not just here on this board, but for your elected officials and the staff, you are the shining light. Not just you're the star of the rural Arizona counties, to say, right? We have 2 urban counties, Maricopa and Pinal, and places like I live in Yavapai County, we look to Pinal County and their leadership. And I think that, there's no secret there about what's been going on down here and the great opportunity. For a gentleman like myself, what I care most about is that my kids get to stay here. My grandkids get to stay here. My wife and I just got told we're going to have our 6th. We want them to stay here. That's important for jobs. That's important for our education system, which does have some benefit. I'm sorry, which does have some benefits along the way. But I want to share with you that my deep concern, as I've been watching, you've been seeing it, gentlemen on the commission, ladies, you've been seeing the brownouts in the West. You've been seeing the concerns in the East, New Mexico. We are unsure of how our next summers will come. But I share with you that moving ahead with these technologies, which these great efficiencies, with the affordability we have, is what is growing with quality jobs in here. And I salute the community of Pinal and for the great work that they've done. And I thank you for the opportunity to promote these kind of great energy systems. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Any questions for the speaker? No.
Well, thank you to the board. Okay.
Brenda Hiscox. She left. Okay. Noah, is it Noah Hiscox? I apologize if I butcher that.
You wanted us to sign our name first, right?
And I think we already have the card from you, so
Okay.
if you fill out a card, you don't have to sign in at the podium, correct? Brett?
Correct.
Very good.
All right. Thanks for listening to me this morning. I, we're local farmers and have been here farming for 45 years. My dear friend Greg Wirtz as well, that his family's been here before me. There's several really important questions I think we need to consider, gentlemen and ladies. Number one, your responsibility, and as is the Board of Supervisors, the safety to our citizens. Number two, the citizens' opinions. Number three, everyone's property values, not just the buyer and seller, but all those people, all of us that are adjacent. There's a gentleman that lives adjacent to this Wirtz property that's in the audience today. My home and farm is about 1.5 miles from this property. Doug Wolf states that adjacent properties to utility grade solar and particularly BESS operations will be reduced. Their value will be reduced. I contend that if you can just picture one farm in the center of several farms, and let's just say that all these farms are worth $10,000 an acre. When one of these farms is covered up with solar panels, it's probably worth $20,000 an acre. I'm just grabbing numbers out of my head. But all the adjacent farms all the way around it, their value all goes down. The loss that they have in their properties goes to that other property. So everyone's property values need to be considered. Also, fourth point that's really important, Pinal County has to decide, well, is this a tax advantage or a disadvantage? Will this help the county or hurt the county? Well, in the case of utility grade solar or BESS, I think it's a disadvantage. We all understand the tax base is a declining 10-year rate. So, and also along that way, batteries are not taxed. There's no property tax on batteries. There's no advantage whatsoever to that. The property itself, the panels have value, and they can be taxed, but it's a 10-year declining rate. And in the 11th year, the rate goes back to the lowest tax rate. But all the people, all the jobs that were supported when they were farms, that all goes away. There are no more employees, or very few employees. And lastly,
I'm sorry, that's time.
I out of time already?
Yep.
Yeah.
Any questions for the speaker? Thank you.
Okay. Lastly, I'd like to say P&Z was always wonderful that we got to come and speak our mind entirely, and we weren't cut off before we got to finish. So maybe you could change that in the future.
Bernice Gomez.
Hi. All what I heard was let it burn, and we don't care for the people's life nor livestock. Imagine waking up one day to find an industrial scale solar farm right next to your home. That's what happened to me and my neighbors to the southeast side of our properties. Now you want to do that to us on the northwest side? Outrageous. But we get it. We get it. It's the only thing that matters in your pocket, not us, the people, and sugarcoating the damage won't help. At first, it sounds like a step forward, clean energy, but what's the real cost? Truth is placing massive solar fields near residential areas and farmland comes with serious consequences, which obviously you don't care. Once we can't afford to ignore, yet you did, and you're trying to do it again and again and all over again. The little bushes and trees you're talking about, you guys placed on Story Road, weren't and aren't enough to control the heat. Trust me, we live there. These are now heat islands, significantly raising temperatures in the surrounding area, which none of us are able to control. That means hotter summers, increased air conditioning costs, and unbearable condition for both people and livestock. Animals suffer in extreme heat. Crops dry out faster with potential fire hazard. But yes, let it burn to the ground. The fire truck takes 13 minutes to get to a ranch. Yet it was mentioned, let it burn. Now think, what fire damage is done in 13 minutes? How fast can we move our livestock, all of our livestock, our families? So who do we sacrifice? As an FYI, we don't have fire hydrants close by, not even far from our lands, and we are likely to have a fire hazard this summer, drier than ever due to these panels near us. Landscaping, what if you provide to us where damage is done already, solutions to make our living better, like building barriers for starters to delay the fire since it will not be contained? Place water hydrants, providing us with landscaping for the hot summer, something to mitigate the hazard that you already created. Damage that was and is done, and the heat is awful. Solar fields was done on Story Road, and avoid others to go through what we're going through. We had to sell our livestock due to the fire hazard, or in our livelihood change our way in our rate of living. Then there's the impact on our health. These fields reflect the intense sunlight causing glare that can be biting to drivers, pilots, and even people in their own backyards. Because the Coolidge Airport, it flies over, and I mean it does affect them too. I'm pretty sure. The reality is solar energy should be a solution, not a burden. We need better planning solutions to we're affected by the solar fields. Then plan plan on placing these projects in remote areas, not next to homes, schools, and farms. Why are you so obsessed with Coolidge? Is this the only piece of land available? Because you can buy tons of acres in Yuma at an auction. It's happening in a few days. Pinal County's assessor repeatedly said solar drops surrounding land value.
30
Then if we
seconds.
ignore these dangers, we risk damaging not only our communities but also the very land we depend on. Don't see this with tunnel vision. Where your pockets are the only thing that matters. Let's stand for responsible energy solutions and that protect both of our health and our future. Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker? I had a quick question for you, if you don't mind. Ms. Gomez, thank you. How far is your property from this
Not
property?
even a mile away.
Okay, thank you. The next one, Ralph Pugh, but I think we know your opinion. Thank you. Tom Bagnall, is that right?
Chairman Clough, Commissioners, good morning. My name is Tom Bagnall. I live at 7443 South Sunshine Boulevard, and that would be the northeast corner of Sunshine and 287. I have Pinal Central Solar to the south of me. I have Orsted to the west of me. I want to say one thing right now. All the folks that are here today telling us that we need this don't live here. They don't live in the Coolidge area. The folks that are here against this, they live here and they live in the Coolidge area. That's what counts. We don't want this. The city has been very loud, and the neighboring folks in the county have also said, we don't want any more solar. We have plenty of solar. We have plenty of battery storage. We don't need this. None of these folks live here. We do. We are the ones that you guys are here to protect. They talk about landscape. I've said this to this commission before. The landscaping they do, it's no more than putting lipstick on a pig. It's just covering it up. It doesn't do anything. I look at it every day and I still know what's back there. So as far as the fire goes, I don't know. NextEra, they operate Pinal Central. They had a inverter fire over there. They operate Story Solar. They had a fire underneath the panels out there. Best is the trifecta if they get a fire there. So again, I'm asking you, turn this thing down. We don't need it. And you know, they talk about how it's going to benefit us. I don't see how that's going to happen. It's going to hurt us more. So thank you, and please, again, I'm going to ask you to vote no on this. Thank you.
Any comments or questions for the speaker? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Phil Dirtwright.
See if I can hear me okay? All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm Phil Garthright. I'm the senior planner for the city of Coolidge. Just real quickly, I'd like to note that I've worked quite a bit with utility aspects, both on the public and private sector for quite a long time, including having been inside of Western Area Power Administration, actually having worked for First Solar, well before battery technology, I will admit. The things I'd like to bring to everyone's attention is, first of all, just that on three sides of this project, either adjacent or diagonal, are our city limits. This is well outside of our solar overlay area that we worked extensively, which encompasses an area of 8,000 acres, or about 11% of our land mass. This proposal does not conform to our voter-approved general plan of November 2024. In the lead up to the documentation, or where we were preparing to get to that point in time, we'd also sent forward documentation of the proposed land uses or existing, or as they might be changed, and of the land uses in this area as they were approved. They were not commented upon to either be changed or anything to the opposite of what we have in place. Most notably, the site itself is what we call our business and commerce land use. That's to facilitate C1, C2, maybe I1, light industrial uses, not an I3. Just adjacent to it to the west is an urban neighborhood use. You can have some C1, C2, but it's primarily intended for R1 through R6. This is a land use that you would not usually see adjacent to an I3. So that's one of the things of the non-compliance and things that we stand in opposition to this. There's been no accommodation, in our opinion, for the North-South Freeway. I'll remind that the Phase 1 environmental has been completed. Even just as recently as yesterday, I looked at the Pinal GIS website and saw that the preferred alignment, if we want to call it that, is still running directly through the property. This could jeopardize the entire alignment and all the work that's been done. Previously, we had expressed in writing and in attendance, it was called out a little bit earlier, our opposition to this project from quite a while back, even if it had not been in the more recent elements that are being undertaken right now. Also to specifically state that one of the public outreach elements was done in our youth center and was spearheaded by our now city manager, Gilbert Lopez. So there was a voice and a presence there evidencing that.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay. I'll just like to note that down the road is our airport. We have over 100 people employed there now. Once upon a time, it was none. We want to see it keep growing. The adjacent land uses can support this with other businesses, live-work scenarios, identify with the land use situation that I just identified, and we would propose one of two situations. Either one, potentially table this project so that it can be considered further, take a look at it, and more so and more importantly, though it would not rectify everything to the land use plan relative to our general plan, but designate an area or space or right-of-way for the north-south freeway. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker?
One question.
Yes.
This is in unincorporated area, but is this part of Coolidge's proposed future plan area?
It is well within our planning boundary area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
James Wallace.
Good morning. My name's James Wallace, and I own a property that's just to the north, joining this said property. I have received a letter from Jacobs Company wanting me to allow them to come in and do a soil compaction test for such of your freeway alignment. My house is approximately 400 feet from the boundary of said property. I have a hay barn that's approximately 200 feet that will hold about 400 ton of hay. If there is such a fire, my place will certainly probably go up in smoke. And so I urge you to turn this down, please. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Thank you, sir. And George Eldorado. Again, please forgive me if I butcher anybody's name.
George Ardondo, 560 West Attaway Road. That's good. I have a small ranch and own land and run it as operations just about a mile from the property there. And I got another 5 acres in Valley Farms there. But anyways, my apologies. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for being allowed here to speak here. I'm obviously in oppose this request here that you have to deal with here, and echo a lot of things that's been discussed about values and traditional. As a farmer rancher, born and raised in this area, know the Wirtz family, Hiscox and Dick Neely's land and Jones and a lot of the farmers that have come by and passed. It's been interesting to see the progression of the area as well. But not to belabor of why we don't want this, but I think to follow up to some of the questions that some of the commissioners had about the batteries, there's obviously a flashpoint. In the military, I served on the ships, and everybody's a firefighter. I'm not a bona fide firefighter, but we fight fires as needed to protect ourselves when we're out at sea. But anything has a flashpoint, and there's a reason why these batteries are separated by, a question that you should have asked the gentleman here on the engineering side, what is the distance before that container gets hot enough and gets the adjacent container fired up, and then you have a catastrophic effect. There's wind factors, timing, and the whole and monsoon system. So those things would be concerned, the questions that you should ask there. The road alignment, I'm glad it's been brought up again. There was 3 or 4 different road paths. They've already selected the path that they're doing. Yeah, granted, there's some fine tuning along the way, but I think the road alignment has already been defined. So that needs to be factored in your decisioning of how this is impacting that particular property. The power purchase, it'd be fortunate that we could buy power from these different elements, but granted, APS, SRP, the big guys always take the best cut. And you always question, why do we need batteries when if the prices of electricity is so high, why do they want to store it, since if obviously there's abundance of electricity being generated, but we as consumers are being tied out. So thank you for your time, and if any questions, I'll stand here.
Thank you. Any questions for speaker? Thank you, sir. And that's all the comment cards I had. Anybody else wish to speak on this matter? Yes, sir. Did you sign in? About to. Okay, very good. Thank you.
My name is Kirk McCarville. I work with the Land Advisors Organization. I'm Pinal County Manager for Land Advisors. I was hired by the Wirtz family to market their property. I'm selling their property for the highest and best use, which is what brokers are supposed to do. Mr. Wirtz farms about 1,600 acres right now. He has enough water for 300. He's only farming about 700 acres of this property. There's no more water coming from the Colorado River. There's way more farmland than there is water. Mr. Wirtz wants to exit the farming business. He doesn't want his children to come into the farming business because he doesn't think there's much of a future in it. This is a way for him to retire, which he is ready to do. There is no data that supports diminution of property values because of adjacency to solar. We're in a data-driven real estate company. We're the largest land company in America, the largest land company in Arizona. There is no data that supports that. There is some commercial considerations east of this property because the Macerich company bought 320 acres there in 2005, which was the big bubble. Macerich has capitulated to the market. They're not trying to market that property anymore. In fact, they listed it with us, and we have a letter of intent on that for solar. So the idea that this is going to compete with commercial usage in that area. In fact, Coolidge's own general plan encourages growth from concentric rings out. There's no growth anticipated in this area for the next 30 years, according to their own general plan.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? No? Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Thought I filled a card out. I guess I didn't.
I'm Greg Wirtz, my wife Laura Lee and I'll go maybe.
Yeah, please sign that.
Wife Laura Lee and I own this property. And the reason I came today was make a few comments and to the commission and listen. And I get to see my friends. So that's another reason to be here. But my wife and I bought this several years ago. We were blessed with 4 children and 6 grandchildren, and none of them want to farm currently like the way we're farming. So we're it. Actually, I'm probably one of the last in our family, my dad's immediate family, that's going to be farming. And it's really changed. And this is our retirement deal. We've come to the conclusion of we don't particularly like the way farming has gone lately. It's an insurance-based deal, and you don't really get to farm. This is San Carlos property that's for sale, and it doesn't have much water, so you can't really farm it. It's got a lot of issues, so you become a insurance broker. All you do is try to figure out your best insurance deal and way to work that. That's what farming has become, and I don't like it. So that's one of the reasons maybe the kids didn't want to do it. But I'm just here. I think I don't agree with all the negativity about solar. There was a comment about the ugly painted pig lipstick on a pig. Where I look at it a little bit differently on solar. It's kind of like everybody loves bacon, but no one wants a hog farm. And that's the way it is with solar. Everybody wants the power. Everybody wants everything, but they don't want to look at them. But here we are putting them on our schools. And if they were so dangerous, why are we putting things on schools and everywhere else in houses? You know, why is that good? Why are we doing that? So I just don't think it's a bad deal. I think we need it. The Coolidge to grow and the area to grow. I think we really need to have this stuff. That's my right as a property owner to, it's in compliance with everything that I know of for the county. And I should be able to sell it, and that the use has been approved already. So that's why I'm in favor of this, and I would ask your recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank
you. Oh,
Person, the,
we'll circle back after.
I can't go backward.
No, after the public comment, then we'll have a time to discuss.
I'm sorry, I think that.
After the public comment, we'll have a time to discuss.
I wanted to ask one of the people who made a public comment.
We can't go back.
Okay, that's that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Good morning. I'm Deborah Bagnall. Sorry, I'll write fast. I just wanted to state my opinion. I also live in the area, and I want to kind of reiterate what they said. The Coolidge area alone has 8,000 acres of solar farms, either in effect or approved. That's not Pinal County. We are way overburdened with solar right now. We need to slow down, hit the brakes a little bit on some of the solar that we're putting in. I live in the area, I also live in the alignment path of the freeway, and I'm already getting eaten up by that. I would like to say that this is just not a good plan for our community. You know, even if there's no negative at all about solar, how much solar can you put in one area? That's not good for our growth. It's a place saver where other businesses can't come in. You can't have housing there. You can't have businesses there that are going to affect our tax base and our other stuff. And we all know, no matter what they say, this power goes to California, it goes to other states. It's not going to benefit our area. They don't take the power and reroute it to Coolidge just because our power is high. And I'm on San Carlos. I know about high power and problems with the grid as much as any of you. But I don't think this is good for our community. It's not good for our area. So please take that into consideration. I don't know the exact numbers of what Pinal County has. Do any of you know how many acres we have that are set aside for solar at this time in Pinal County?
This isn't a back and forth, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, I just mean that is definitely something to think about, because we have way more, we're overburdened with that compared to the other businesses that actually bring in a positive force for our environment, our area. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you.
Anybody else? With that, I'm going to close the public comment portion, and I'll bring the applicant back up for response.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the commission, thank you again for an opportunity to respond to some of the questions. I think what we'd like to do first is ask Ashley Johnson to please come and answer the question about ADOT, because she's the one that had the conversations with them, and she can tell you exactly what ADOT told us about this plan.
Thank you. Yeah, we've heard many comments today about the concerns of the alignment of the ADOT freeway. I'd like to reiterate what Ralph said earlier, and we absolutely see the importance and need for the freeway. We absolutely support it, which is why we've been in active communications with ADOT. We've met with them multiple times regarding the location of our project, their studies, and the alignment of the freeway. They have taken our project location into consideration and have advised us to move forward as we normally would proceed with the location and design of our project. So ADOT is aware, just like we are aware of their proposed project, and they've told us to move forward with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Vice Chair, Commission members, a couple quick thoughts. One, the city of Coolidge, as all municipalities, does have what we call extraterritorial jurisdiction to have planning areas go beyond their corporate boundaries. They are guidelines. They are not the same as a general plan or within the town's boundaries. It's what they expect to see, what they would like to see. But when it's not annexed into Coolidge, it is the county, it is Pinal County who has complete jurisdiction over that land. I think the other thing I would say, I was at the meeting 2 years ago. I didn't represent NextEra. I had another case on the agenda, and I heard comments, and I was there for a long time listening. Like Mr. Billingsley said today, there was a lot of comments at that meeting. What I can safely say is most of what's been said here today about the solar business, its location, the fire issues, were all discussed 2 years ago. I didn't hear anything new here that wasn't presented to the Board of Supervisors when they considered this case. So we come to you today complying with the county's standards, complying with the comp plan, and implementing the comp plan. So we would urge your support to, you have every right to deny this case and recommend denial, but think of what that leads to, right? Recommend denial of this case. Then you have the Wirtz family who has a comprehensive plan category on their land for green energy. The zoning case to implement the green energy is denied. You got your raw land. That's really what we're talking about here today. So we urge your support, and I thank Ashley for her comments about ADOT. We have met with them. We know what ADOT wants. They said move forward, keep us posted, send us a letter for our next reviews. We're not inhibiting anything as it relates to the north-south corridor. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I'll be quiet, and thanks for your time. We urge your recommendation of approval.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments for the applicant? Mr. Pugh, I do have one quick one for you that kind of came up as a thought. Historically on a traditional development, not solar, just a housing development, if you will, around the perimeter of a development of this size, we would require, and Brent, please correct me if I misspeak, a masonry wall, 6 foot tall, 7 foot tall, as a buffer between the residential zone and adjacent properties. Am I correct in that statement?
Yes, sir, and that's consistent in industrial projects as well. If there's situations where it's adjacent to residential, we request that a wall be placed there. Yes.
Thank you. And with this one, there is the chain link fence that, I know that there's been, a couple things, some challenges in the past with, people climbing over the fence and getting into not just solar facilities, but cell phone facilities and so on and so forth. There have been, with chain link fences, there was a comment that was made earlier that there will be no vegetation here. Well, we live in Arizona. We know how monsoons work. We know how weeds work. And I want to say I have no weeds in my backyard, but they still get in there. And so, you know, combine this with a challenge that the just general public has with battery storage, especially not having some kind of additional fire rated buffer in addition to the landscaping, that's not just a chain link fence, with a stipulation to the PAD, would you be open to a CMU fence around the property?
Vice Chair Klob and commission members, I do believe we have a stipulation that
Is
deals
there?
with that topic.
It says all adjacent to all residential zone areas.
Right.
I don't know that, are these, is the zoning around, is it, it is all,
Is a general rule, which would be considered a residential zone.
so in the packet, it shows chain link fence. Mr. Billington.
I hesitate to say this, but although GR is residential, it's classified as rural residential.
Right.
So it doesn't require a wall unless there are actual residences there. So there's a little bit of a nuance in that I thought I could provide to the group. Kendall, do you have a graphic that shows the zoning surrounding the site? Is it all general rural?
Yes, and there is homes that do border the site as well.
So the walls, since it's rural residential GR, it would require walls where those houses are, but not entirely around the perimeter. Unless the applicant would agree to, as you said, Vice Chair, a wall around the best facility, not only so they can't see it, but also for fire protection reasons.
Good. Thank you. With that, I'll ask for any other comments for the applicant before I close that and bring it back to the dais. Anything else? Seeing none, I'll close the public and applicant presentation for PZ-017-24 and PZ-PD-011-24. Bring it back to the dais for discussion and or motions, etc. Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Anybody want to make a motion for a stipulation or a motion for how we want to go forward?
Vice Chair,
Commissioner Money.
where you brought up that discussion about the wall, is that something you'd want to try and amend the stipulation?
I would like to see, if this does move forward, a stipulation for a CMU wall, a minimum of minimum of 6 feet around the entire perimeter. And then there was also a comment that I had earlier regarding the relocation of the battery storage to be more centrally located versus right against, and maybe we have to look at a larger buffer as a, as a setback. If that's something that the dais would like, then we can discuss that as well.
Brent, if I may ask staff a question.
You bet.
We're discussing possibly amending that stipulation to ask for it to be there. However, if we don't, and homes are then built on one side, do they then have to add that?
No, you can't be retroactive with respect to that. What I would suggest, if you guys are kind of in consensus about the wall stipulation, I would suggest that you ask the applicant to see if they are okay with that accommodation.
Okay, I just wanted clarification from you as well. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Is it, go back to the attorneys. Okay, we bring the applicant back up.
Mr. Vice Chair, Commission members, the concept of a CMU block wall around an entire solar facility, utility scale solar, is highly unusual. And we cannot agree today to do that. We will agree to work with the staff and consider some wall around the BESS area. We need to think about that a little bit and see what that really means, but we cannot commit to a block wall around this 160 acres.
Okay.
Thank you.
Come back to the dais. Any discussions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Vice Chair, if the CMU block wall stipulation is something that you have a consensus to move forward with, I would suggest that we exit to e-session to discuss that with our legal counsel.
How does the commission feel about executive session? Yes? You're okay with that? Let's recess to executive session to.
You have to have a motion?
I apologize.
Yep.
Motion, somebody?
I move to go to executive session to discuss.
Do I have a second? Hartman, second. With that, we'll go to executive session.
Let's go. You want you.
So I paused the recording. Yeah, I just paused. Oh, yeah. Let me see. There's like four access to the property. I contacted that application to have access. Because that was not for us to get to you guys. That was when we first bought the property. So we say that ADOT has barbed wire fence that will across the property, there's no access to the property. A lot of forms to submit it to ADOT, and I hear from them for a year and a half. And then finally says.
That person left.
And part of it is that individual has their business card. They're there, and then it's us. It's supposed to do, and what can I do? So, we we noticed that we have gone to the property, have been on property. And so they'll fill all the information out. What do I do? And we said, oh, okay, we see that you did that. Okay, now.
Yeah, you felt bad From our meeting we have, there's just so much construction to help with all this.
That's a big question.
I don't know. Yeah, there's so. Yeah, they're giving. A year or two. I'm not sure what they're supposed to do. But Jody was like, oh. So I think that's why he was like, there's no problem with you guys right now.
Oh, the one on there?
I don't see any problems. So.
Well, yeah.
Because I think they're gonna be doing some road expansion and some stipulations and changes.
I don't really understand the other process fully, but yeah, what they really expired the same day that issue. That was that once it Paul Day.
Makes sense.
Something there has to.
Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing?
But hopefully this clears this up. I see they'll work with us.
Without going into greater detail from the meeting we had before this, we did a video conference just saying, we just have so much work, and I see no problem with where you guys are right now, in the process that you're at.
Our electricity. Yeah, I don't know. What
Yeah, but he said, I said, September.
It was going to different inboxes that he had. That's what he never saw.
That one, and then I told him that, to listen to the parts right in right now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so because of that deceleration lane.
Yeah. They can still.
Yeah. Commuter at work. Yeah.
Well, they can directly.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened here? This.
Yeah. But then it passed.
But all I'm getting at there is you can do it more. You get some roadway stuff. Make sure you guys have I just want to make sure you guys are ready
For the project, yes.
Usually seems like 70 minutes.
Property owner, so this guy right here where the.
Oh, that's not being there.
Right, it's here, this gentleman is. Dell, he's developed his property, had a well drilled, had a permit, Stevens did it for him. And we're working on a shared well agreement with the lawyers and. Yeah, he's working. Confusion is, what he was talking about, the city of Mesa owns this portion right here, the emergency tower. They are responsible for all the asphalt buildings that were laid down there. It's right there, so that's why he was. Yeah, so because they have to have access to that federal emergency tower there, that they asphalt buildings down here. It's kind Acceleration.
The property that's owned by ADOT, which is 30 feet from 60 feet. Barbed wire fence was from Mesa all the way in front of our property, all the way in front of Hill's property, all the way in front of Beeman's property, So when the access, what ADOT wants is people to exit the 60, but here, where Mike's property, where the deceleration is, go along the frontage road, essentially, and then access our property from Pleasure, and then when they come out, they need to exit, continuing down the road, and then get on to 60 in front of Venus. So just continue. I think it's. They also said because of the Renaissance Festival, they have plans to widen the 60. And so he said their engineers are working on the whole. Yeah, so the whole plan is to widen it all the way from Bull Canyon, all the way up past, all the way to Florence. Yeah, they're down to 2 lanes. They want to make it minimum 3 lanes. Or just with. It's not small. Oh, great.
We'll see. Like, because they get it.
I'll put yourself out here and still get in trouble. Yeah, I get pushing out further and further away from the middle.
Yeah, I'm on the other end.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You got hurt.
So right at the wall.
Hey, Brett. Do I have a motion to reconvene after executive session?
Second.
Marvin, second by Commissioner Mooney, sorry. We're back in from executive session. I'd like to turn over to the county attorney.
Thank you, Vice Chair Klob. Just to clarify for the record, executive session as identified on the agenda for today, it does state the board may go into executive session for the purposes of obtaining legal advice from the county attorneys on any of the above agenda items pursuant to ARS 38431.03A3. And the executive session was convened pursuant to that statute for legal advice on the matters currently before the commission.
Very good, thank you. And with that, I'd like to bring the applicant back up, Mr. Pugh. And based on comments that were made earlier, I just want to make sure that just kind of clean everything up. You and the applicant is willing to work with staff as it relates to the location of battery storage and the appropriate location of CMU walls as they apply to the existing stipulations.
I believe that's true. That is absolutely right.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll pull it back to the commission and look for any other comments, questions, and or motions. Oh, there was one quick item, Kendall, I think. It looked like there was in the staff report, it mentions 22 stipulations, but there was 21 listed.
There should be 22 for each case.
Okay.
Okay.
Only showing 21.
You too, yeah. 21. No, I am incorrect. My PowerPoint was wrong. We removed 2 stipulations, so it would be 21 for both cases.
21 for both cases. Very good. So anybody that makes a motion needs to make sure they reference the 21 stipulations as noted in the staff report. Anybody? Very good. Commissioner Zaraga.
Okay, I move the Planning and Zoning Commission for a recommendation of approval of case PZ 017-24 with 21 stipulations to the Board of Supervisors.
Do I have a second? Hearing. Second. Oh, second. Mr. Keller. Let's do a roll call vote.
You got it.
Vice Chair Klob?
No.
Member Hartman?
No.
Member Keller?
Yes.
Member Lizarraga?
Yes.
Member Chef? No. Member Davila?
Not here.
Not here, no. Member Mooney?
No.
And Member Peranzo?
No.
Motion fails to, I guess.
5-2.
5-2.
5-2.
Thank you. Do I have another motion?
They don't have to make a motion.
Chair, I'll make that motion.
Do move on to the next item. We voted on the first item. We're moving on to the second item.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we not have to have an actual motion of approval or denial for that?
I thought that was a motion of approval that was voted down in the nay form.
So it's not.
So
Okay. So we'd have to have a separate, okay.
you,
Comp plan and then motion on the.
right, there's two different items.
Correct.
Yeah, it would be a recommendation of no, but if you would like, we could do another motion with a recommendation, the attorney saying, go ahead to clean it up.
Okay. So for PZPD 011-24, can I get
I'll make a motion for denial.
Mr. Mooney? Do I have a second? Second, Commissioner Lizarraga. Want to do another roll call?
Vice, we'll start a different way. Member Peranzo,
No.
No.
Member Mooney,
Yes.
this is for denial.
What is it? Oh,
Yes, it's for
This is
denial.
for denial. Did you want to?
I don't want it.
Okay. So you want to say yes? That's
So that
what's-
would be a yes vote, Mr. Pranzo?
That's a yes.
Thank you.
Member Chef,
Things get inverted.
Yes.
Member Lizarraga,
No.
Member Keller,
No.
Member Hartman.
Yes.
Yes. This was a, Vice Chair Clow.
Yes. Same result.
That would be 5-2 in the affirmative.
Good, thank you. That one fails.
It's just,
Do I have a motion or discussion PZ-PD-011-24?
Vice Chair.
Commissioner Money.
I'll make a motion to deny. I move the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a recommendation of denial of case PZPD-00, 011-24 to the Board of Supervisors.
Good. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bronzo, second. Another roll call?
Vice Chair Clow,
Yes.
Member Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Commissioner Keller,
Yes.
Commissioner Lizarraga,
Yes.
Commissioner Chef,
Yes.
Commissioner Mooney,
Yes.
and Commissioner Pranzo.
Yes.
That was unanimous.
That one failed as well.
Okay.
Quick notice to the public. We are a recommending body. This project will now track to the Board of Supervisors for their review. Do we know when that's going to track?
Typically, it's 4 to 6 weeks. It would be on the board agenda.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
All right. It's good seeing you, Ralph. Yeah. See, you're welcome.
It's just what they've always done.
Yeah, let's take. Leave 5 minutes.
Do a 5 minute. I think we're going to do a 5 minute break and we'll reconvene at 11:25.
Guess the door's right there. That's the next step.
Or they put you there to be convenient because they knew you wanted to leave sooner. Perspective.
I'm not gonna deny or confirm that.
All right. Back in. Call the next case.
Sorry, we need to reconvene. I'll call, right, don't we?
You don't have to vote. It was just a short recess. You just reconvenes the meeting.
Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Next case on the agenda is PZ-PD 015-24.
Good morning, Vice Chairman and Commission members. My name is Valentin Panchenko. My title is Planner, and I'm here to present to you the case PZ-PD-015-24. This case is a proposal from Queen Creek Senior Living LLC and RVI Planning Plus Landscape Architecture to request a major PED amendment to the Compson and Cantera Senior Living PED. The proposed amendment allows a partially two-story building instead of the previously approved one-story structure while maintaining the maximum building height. This change aims to support also the development of an assisted living and memory care facility on about 5.93 acre site within the community commercial zoning district at East Combs Road and North Incantera Drive in Santana Valley area. This proposal trigger major PD amendment due to request of amending the stipulation that states a requirement for only one-story structure. Here's the location map with a star. Here's a case map with different zoning. You will see that it's surrounded on the north with industrial buffer zone. To the south, the town of Queen Creek jurisdiction with commercial and residential use. To the east, there are residential use, and to the west, there are multiple residential use as well. There's a aerial map of this site. Here's 600 feet notification map, vicinity map. There was done all site posting. There was one post on site with locations that you can see. Here is view from that post into the west, east, to the south, and to the north. Then talking about the stipulation that was requested to amend, there was stipulation number 18 in original stipulation that stated that the building on site shall not exceed one story, and the request to update it with 2 stories with maintaining the same height. Here you can see the conceptual site plan. There was 1-story building. And to compare conceptual proposed site, you can see there one part is 2-story building and memory care is 1-story building. Here 2 sites together so you can compare the difference. Here in conceptual sites plans, here is design, architectural design, what was changed. On the top you will see the previously approved, and in the bottom you will see proposed architectural design according to the new PED book. There are also some amended building standards to previously approved PED book. You can find the table 4 and table 5 in PED book and as well in staff report with the full description. Here's just a summary. There will be doubled open space. There will be increase in parking from 69 to 75 parking spaces. There will be reduced building coverage. There will be increased yard depths, so setbacks from 3 sides will be increased. I will say even drastically. There will be a slightly improved building design with maintaining the same material and some architecture. The changes that you need to, I need to point out, it's changing to increase number of units from 90 units to up to 118 units. It's plus 28 units. And the one-story to two-story building, which is the main request to amend the stipulation. There was in previous PED stipulations, there was also two stipulations that that required to pass a rezoning case, and there was a stipulation about separating a parcel as separate parcel because there was one parent bigger parcel. Those two stipulations no longer needed for the new PD case. So in the new stipulations that will be proposed, those two stipulations has been removed. So the numbering was changed. So now that related stipulation number 18 become stipulation number 16. Items to consider that the applicant seeking the approval for the major amendment due to needs of amending the stipulation. They are also providing some enhancement of for development standards. If talking about increasing number of units, assisted senior livings and memory care does not trigger the residential density according to the code, and commercial area does not count to the residential density calculations. And the applicant put that number up to 118 due to number of parkings that allow them to do up to 118 because it's one parking lot for 2 bedrooms and plus the stuff that's involved in this facility. So that's 118 units. It's the maximum that will be allowed for the proposed number of parking spaces. There will be no change to land use and zoning. There is no change to the comprehensive plan required, and there was no public comments has been received up to date, and there was no comments from the utilities and agencies also sent. There was increase about number of units from utility companies, but after that there was no comments regarding this project. So in case of conditional approval for this case, there will be 16 stipulation as mentioned in staff report. And they are also listed in the presentation. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Was that your first presentation of this?
No, on P&Z, yes.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks.
Any questions for staff? The applicant like to speak? I apologize, my mic was on. Welcome the applicant.
Vice Chair, fellow members, my name is Tyler Brennan. I'm the landowner and developer of this community. I'd like to just take a step back. You're probably wondering, why are we going from 1-story to 2-story? The main reason is this project was designed a couple years ago. We've found that it'd be cost inhibitive to move forward with the original design based on the cost we found with upgrading East Combs and Incantera, the street lights that we're upgrading there at the intersection, and also the underground storage tanks for water. When we found our original design, we had to move all that rainwater underground, and we found it is extremely expensive to do that. So we thought we'd improve the building. We shrunk the building dramatically, going from, 73,000 square foot footplate to 53,000 square foot footplate. We've also doubled the parking, the open space by 10% to 20%. We've also increased the yard depth from our neighbors from 17 feet to over 84 feet in some areas. We've also, we're only asking for a partial portion of the building to be 2-story, not the entire area. With these changes, I think it benefits the community. It benefits our ability to build this project. And I think it's a lot better design, more efficient. That said, the increase that we're asking for in units will not have an impact on traffic as our residents don't drive. And our staffing will remain the same. We have the same amount of staff. The other reason that we see the increase is because over the last 2 years, we've had a tremendous amount of increased interest for senior living in this area. I think Pinal County and Queen Creek is underserved, and we'd love to bring a beautiful community to the area and serve the seniors and the memory care individuals that need the help. So with that, I'd like to open up with any questions.
Chair, if I may. Two questions. One, is this strictly for Encantera residents, or is it open to anybody?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Mooney. This is open to anyone.
Okay.
The support that we got was from Encantera. A lot of the residents came to tell us that they need this for their adult parents.
It was more curiosity than
yeah.
anything. I was wondering, because just curious.
Yeah, we're not affiliated with the Encantera.
And I see that the building height isn't changing, so it's just strictly the number of units. So the ceilings obviously are.
Yes, correct. We're not going past the originally approved building height at all. In fact, we're just increasing the floor height.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, 36 feet.
All right.
But we're pulling the building further away from our neighbors.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, I was just, one was curiosity and the other one was just clarification. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Comment, or I guess I have a question. The main reason, one of your main reasons I heard was the cost. Is that the reason why you're coming in for the change? The cost of the original plan as opposed to what you want now?
Thank you. Yes, so when we went to price the cost of upgrading Encantera Drive and East Combs Road, the cost of the streetlights, all the new conditions for the new streetlights that Pinal County and East Combs requires. There are these new nice lights with LED backlit sign, street names and everything. The street lights we have to put along East Combs Road. The cost of the underground tanks, we found it completely cost inhibitive to build the project. A lot of the costs over COVID have gone up substantially.
Okay. And nothing's changing as far as your facility opportunities for the resident, like you have a memory care there, and you still had that before in the first plan, and
yep.
So just the footprint and
yes, sir.
Going vertical.
Yes, sir.
As you
Shrinking,
say.
more dense. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I had a couple. Respecting what you've done to, shrink the building and can, appreciate the change in going to 2-story versus 1 and the land development costs. I understand that. Because there's a fair amount of land that is still, left over, we'll call it. Is there thoughts on future expansion, or this is pretty much it?
Thank you, Vice Chairman. No, this is it. This is all we'd like to build and are happy with the way the new plan is.
Okay.
Sets. Yes. No expansion.
Okay. Another question that I have, changing this from a pitched roof, tile roof as depicted, going to a parapet roof. I know we don't have necessarily design standards in the county, but it's pretty much an acceptable standard across the board and anywhere in the valley. To ensure that mechanical is any roof mounted mechanical is screened. Will that be included? And would you mind adding a stipulation to accommodate that?
Yeah, we have no. Thank you, Vice Chairman. We have no issue with screening our mechanical within this building. In the previous design, it was screened as well. So we'll maintain that.
I think most everybody does it as just general practice anymore, but it's not a requirement, so I wanted to bring that up. The two other questions that I had, I can come back to Valentine on this one. Can you talk a little bit about, we're changing, we're adding 28 units, but we only added 6 parking spaces. And I know this is a low traffic, development but you know, there are families that do come and sometimes, and, you know, grandma's birthday, that we might have, you know, multiple cars. So, you know, I just don't want there to be any challenges with that.
No, it was just previously dedicated large amount of parking spaces for the previous PD that required by the code. So far, what they have is 75 parking spaces that will accommodate 118 units, plus the stuff that applicant told us they will have. So that's the amount, strictly the minimum parking spaces requirements for the number of units and stuff will be available on the site. So that's according to the code. But why, regarding to your recall about small addition to parking lots, they're adding 6, but previously they added just over number of parking spaces.
Okay.
For the previous submission. That's the difference, and why they are adding smaller number of parking spaces and larger number of units.
Okay. The applicant, I think yet.
Just say that, Vice Chairman. Yeah, we were overparked on the first plan.
Okay.
So we had a lot more than we needed for the units, but we're just adding more to meet the 118 code.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you. The last question I have relates to and I apologize. I even though we've beat up definitions in the last 6 months, what is the definition of the building height? Are we to the max height, to the ridge height, or is that mean height?
Max height.
Max height. So any projection cannot exceed the 36 feet.
Yeah, without a variance. Yes.
Very good. That's all that I had. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, Mr. Billings.
If it's the pleasure of the commission to add a 17th stipulation, I've written one, if that's your pleasure, and then I think that'd be stipulation 17, Valentine. Just to let you know, if you do go that direction, then I'll need to read that into the record.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Mooney.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. So concerning the parking, I mean, as it didn't increase much, but what is the number of staff
Thank you, Commissioner.
compared to the number of units that you have?
Yes, thank you. So we have a staff number that to maintain it at the highest peak hours, which we then took that to Lokahi to get our traffic studies and everything done for the traffic engineer within Pinal County. And I don't have that exact number of what is in that report. I believe it's in our original application. But at peak hours, we'll call it, say, 20 staff members at peak hours. And that's it.
So
the rest is for.
That's 20 dedicated spaces for them. And I don't have that sheet in front of me. So then it's 55 spaces for the 118 units.
We are at.
No. Yeah, 118 units.
Yes. So, and none of our residents have vehicles or drive, but per code, we are supposed to still allow for that, that amount.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Very good. With that, I will go to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this case? Not seeing any, I will close the public comment portion. And I will ask the applicant if he has anything else he wants to add. Staff, anything additional? Nothing, you good? Very good. I'll bring that back to the commission for any additional comments. And do we want to investigate the
that was where I was going to go
Yeah.
is what was the stipulation? Did we talk about that? Did we have discussion? What do
Like
we
him
need
to
to
read
know?
what he wrote. Yeah.
I'll read this so that's read into the record. Proposed stipulation 17, all roof mounted mechanical equipment to be screened from public view.
Good with that? Very good. So whoever makes a motion, we need to make sure that if So agreed, it'll be with step 17 stipulations. Any other discussion? Commissioner Mooney.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a recommendation of conditional approval of case PZ PD-015-24 to the Board of Supervisors with 17 stipulations.
Do we need to read
We
that
might
in?
need to read in that stipulation.
I would be glad to read in stipulation 17 one more time. Stipulation 17, all roof-mounted mechanical equipment to be screened from public view.
Good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Luzaraga. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Valentine. All right, with that, I will call, is it the commission's purview to continue this next case before lunch?
Yes.
We got one case, let's run through. Very good. I'll call PZ-016-24. Patrick.
Good morning, Vice Chair, members of the commission. Patrick Zaya Roberts, Senior Planner. Before we begin, I do have a supplemental material from Arizona Department of Transportation I'd like to hand out to the commission.
Thank you.
And to briefly summarize this letter, it is a letter from the Arizona Department of Transportation that briefly summarizes the current standing of the ADOT access permit for US Highway 60. They did clarify that they are neutral in the zoning matter and that they're continuing to work with the Richards to process their permit going forward prior to any site plan approvals. Okay. This is case PZ-01624 for Arizona Quality RV and Boat Storage. This is a action requesting a rezoning for GR to C3. The applicant is Melissa and Rick Richards from Arizona Quality RV and Boat Storage. They are the landowner and applicant, and they're requesting approval to rezone 2.84 acres of land from GR to C3 to allow development of an RV and boat storage facility on parcel 104-15003. And this is approximately half a mile northwest of El Camino Viejo on US Highway 60, on the south side of US Highway 60. And this is located in Supervisory District 5. This is a map of the county showing the approximate location of the site, north of Florence Junction. A vicinity map showing the surrounding zoning of nearby properties and nearby communities. An aerial map showing the location of the property. A zoning map showing a more proximal view of the surrounding zoning categories and proximity to state land. This is a graphic of their proposed site plan, preliminary site plan, identifying the intended uses. The applicants are proposing, 32 covered RV spaces of dimensions of 12 foot by 60 feet, 2 stalls of 12 foot by 40 foot stalls, 2 stalls each of 12 foot by 40 and 12 foot by 35 stalls respectively, and a total of 36 covered RV spaces. It'll also include 33 enclosed garage units, 18 units with 15 by 50 feet dimensions, and 15 units with 15 by 40 foot dimensions. All of these garage units are enclosed units will have 18-foot ceiling heights, and further identifies 29 mini storage units along the south wall of the site. This is an image looking north across US 60 towards the Arizonian RV resort. south onto the subject site, east along the perimeter wall, and west up US Highway 60. So some items for commission consideration. The submitted application for this land use request is for approval of a rezoning. If the application is approved, the subject property will be rezoned from GR to C3 to allow for development of an RV and boat storage use. The property has access to Highway 60 directly fronting the property. And the project adheres to the comprehensive plan standards and identifies a commercial service to local residents under 25 acres. The comprehensive plan designation in this area is moderate low density residential. The project was subject to a co-compliance case CC 001224, which has been closed as of January 14th, 2025, upon the clearance of the site and vacation of all unpermitted operations. And the project has potential to attract future local development and eliminates an incompatible existing zoning area in direct proximity to existing commercial and industrial uses. Staff has received no comments of opposition or support for this case. And the commission may conditionally approve with 7 stipulations or issue a recommendation of denial. At this point, does the commission have any questions of staff?
Any questions of staff?
I have a question.
Mr. Staff.
On the US 60, is there direct exit off of it, or is it down the road and they have to come back on access road?
They're in discussions with ADOT to clarify their direct access. They did issue ADOT did issue a permit indicating ingress egress access to the property.
Okay, that's what you gave us.
It was included in the previous packet. This letter is a clarification to that existing permit. That they're further discussing how that will be utilized. Likely, they're going to incorporate a frontage road.
Okay, so nothing's right as of right now. There is no access off of 60.
Correct.
US 60.
As of this time, they're clarifying how that access will be performed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Money.
Oh, in the first paragraph, it says that this permit does not authorize, so they're not authorizing ingress or egress off the highway.
Of the supplemental letter?
Yes, on the first page, the very first paragraph.
Again, this is a supplemental letter that we received last night. They do have another permit that's included in the packet that did indicate they do have ingress egress rights to the property.
But this is off of the 60. They're not going to have off of the 60. That's what this is saying, off of the highway.
Ultimately, ADOT's and the Richards are going to have to agree upon an access means. What this letter is stating is that they don't have any standing on the zoning matters. And ultimately their TIA is going to have to progress to establish that legal access.
Okay. And I do have another question concerning code compliance. Was the property vacant, or what was the issue with?
The property had previously operated as an RV boat storage under an incompatible unpermitted use with no permits under the existing GR zoning standard. I believe the applicant had purchased the property in 2022, and as an action for the co-compliance case and closure of the co-compliance case, they have cleared the site of all operations.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Billingsley.
At every meeting, it seems like there's an opportunity to help provide some clarification and or, education to the folks in the public and what have you. Excellent questions by Commissioner Money and analysis by Commissioner Sneff with regard to looking at access. This is a zoning case, and it is not uncommon for these types of cases to go forward without the access being decided. As a matter of fact, they don't have to provide a traffic impact study and have that approved by ADOT prior to getting zoning. They will prior to having to get a building permit and a site plan approved. So you guys have heard some cases here recently, including Maverick and others, where those approvals didn't happen until considerably after the zoning process had occurred. Maverick, I think, just got their approval for access from ADOT a couple months ago, and I think you guys approved it a year and a half ago. So from a zoning perspective, just to help aid.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Mr. Money.
Just a comment. I mean, I only brought that up because he gave us 2 sheets, and the first one clearly states that. So that's why I was asking and bringing up the clarification. The other one I get is there.
Understood. And just again, this is a document that was provided to us last night. And of course, further clarification on the access will be required before building permits are issued.
Any other questions for staff? With that, well, welcome the applicant.
Hello. Hello, Vice Chair and Commission. My name is Melissa Richards. We are proposing a Class A RV and boat storage facility to provide storage, Class A storage for the residents of the Gold Canyon community. There is a shortage of storage within the valley, especially for the higher end storage, as you probably have seen and know, have been to possibly yourselves in the past. Their storage has not been very attractive with fences around the perimeter and asphalt millings for the ground covering and such. So we would like to propose a Class A beautiful facility that conforms to the code with the colors of the garages and the CMU walls as they are needed. The back sides of the RV garages, as you can imagine from the height that was described by Patrick, are rather high, and they create a beautiful perimeter on the backside of the facility. Those will be in conforming to the colors of the what is described in the code. So that is for the perimeter of those garages, which are in an L shape on the two sides of the property. In the middle portion, again, those are covered RV storage spaces. Our heart and desire is to conform to the code so that when there is lighting that is appropriate within the code for the residents or future residents that for development, that it would be appropriate and it would be in it nothing that would be shining into the communities or onto the roadways. So that would all be in careful consideration and in compliance with the code. The mini storage units are just 10 by 10 small units that we have. They also create a backside wall that is, Rick, my husband can 10 feet tall, excuse me, 10 feet tall. So the parts of the facility that do not have the walls from the garages and the mini storage units, those will be the CMU wall. So it's attractive and beautiful and has the look of a Class A facility. And the drive aisles are compliant to the for prior code at this point as from the existing site plan. Those are 40 feet. Typically in RV and boat storage, we've rented land and we've owned land in Gilbert. We own land in Gilbert. So I've been meeting with customers for 9 years, almost 9 years this August. And they need at least 35 feet. Right now, those are at 40 feet. So if there's a question of that could be a big question I could see that comes up for fire, especially, and for the appropriate ingress and egress, that it is more than substantial at this point. So any other questions?
Any other questions for the applicant?
May I make a comment?
Yes.
My name is Rick Richards. I'm Melissa's husband, and we're doing this project together. Both of us have had multiple talks with Jody Murphy, who produced this Arizona Department of Transportation letter, and he's in charge of giving us approvals. And is this okay? Can you hear me all?
Is that mic on?
No, it is.
Oh, okay, sorry. And one of the concerns that ADOT has, which is causing them to hold back on giving any kind of approvals, is that they're in plans with, if you're familiar with the Renaissance Festival, that's been traffic congestion.
Yeah, they are.
And they have wanted to address that. They've been talking to them a long time about this. And what Jody was telling us is their engineers are very strongly prioritizing the expansion of US 60 and making it 3 lanes going both directions. And a part of that, the easement from the existing US 60 to, there's a 30-foot easement of property owned by ADOT that allows for that expansion, which is right in front of our property. And they didn't want to commit to anything to us because they're still talking to all their engineers of what are we going to do specifically on the expansion of the US 60. So those are all in discussions right now. And for them to have their engineers just look at our property, and actually right next door to us is, there's a communications tower that is owned by the city of Mesa, which it looks like a cell phone tower, but it's actually more of a 911, fire, police, federal communications tower. And they have committed to maintaining the frontage road in front of our property, as well as something that I'm not sure if you're aware, but in front of the Mesa property, there's a deceleration lane that's already exists right off the US 60, which allows people to slow down and pull off the 60 to be able to access the Mesa property, as well as our proposed RV and boat storage facility.
It's down.
And yeah, they might have some pictures coming up.
It's not in that picture.
Yeah, it's further on.
It's paved.
But one thing Jody wanted to have happen is, let's hold on that picture if you could. The direction is headed away from the Renaissance Festival. This is east on the 60, where Jody would like to see the traffic flow to come from the 60, use that deceleration lane, pull off the road and go in front of the Mesa property, which then they would access our property. And then when they leave our property, they would continue going east down this road, and they would get either and enter on the 60 in front of Beeman's Drilling. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but there's a Beeman's Drilling facility that they drill well water, and that's right next door to us. And there's a way across the street, there's a facility which is a RV resort, Arizonian RV resort, and they have a turnoff, and it's almost like a little intersection there. So what ADOT wants to see is the traffic flow is to go, if you're on the 60, you would exit deceleration lane, go in front of the frontage road in front of us, and then traffic would continue down past Beeman's, and they would enter back onto the 60 or go back the opposite direction west on the 60 from in front of Beeman's. So that road that you see in this picture just goes all the way down to in front of Beeman's, and that's the flow of traffic. I just wanted to clarify that. And Jody, he's a little hesitant because they're still trying to figure this all out because things have changed so much. And that's what he indicated to us in our meeting with him recently. So just want to clarify that.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else? Any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, I will open this up for public discussion. I don't see anybody in the public, but we'll ask if anybody has anything to say on this project. And seeing none, I will close the public participation and bring it back to the dais for questions, comments, motions.
I do have, excuse me.
Yes,
a question.
Commissioner Mooney.
With your very detailed presentation on the road, if this were to get approved, and what if things fall south and they don't ever work that out with you as far as being able to have access? It doesn't look like you're going to have easy access without them being, even though you've been working with them.
Oh, from what Jody has said to us, that he has no problem with us having access because of the deceleration lane, which I mentioned.
Can't see
And then,
Yeah, you can't see.
if I could I stand up? Right up here, here's this truck here, and then you can see the two headlights there. There's a vehicle coming this way. About right where that vehicle is, there's a deceleration lane that you pull off the freeway to slow down.
Okay.
And is there another picture of the tower that just got built by Mesa?
The other way.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, right next door to us here is this new tower that just got built. And then, can we go back to that that other picture, that was the deceleration one, yeah. So the tower's over here, and all this here is asphalt millings maintained by the city of Mesa. And Jody said he was going to talk to City of Mesa because their agreement with ADOT is that all this, where you see dirt, is supposed to be filled with asphalt millings by the city of Mesa all the way up to Beeman's. So that whole area in front of us and all the way down is supposed to be maintained by the city of Mesa with asphalt millings. That's part of their agreement with ADOT. So, and they want the flow traffic to come in here, and then they go into hit us, and they go back down to Beeman's to get on. So Jody told us, and Paula, which Patrick's worked with, we've talked with, we've had discussions with all of them. And when we were talking to Jody, he was saying, I have no problems with you guys having access to this, and I don't see any issues with that. Whether we expand it or not, he said he doesn't see any problem as long as the flow of traffic comes from here and they don't try to get onto the 60 freeway right in front of our property. Their concern is they don't want people to just kind of jet out with vehicles going 65 miles an hour and you pull your RV or boat in front and then hold up traffic. They want there to be an entrance where there is an intersection, which is where the Arizonian RV resort is and where Beeman is. There's a lot of traffic going in and out there, and there's deceleration lanes and a lane that pulls you off to get you off the main street. So it's safer back there.
Yeah.
So
the good news about RV and boat storage, because I'm the actual boots on the ground person, we also run and operate a 21-year-old Arizona quality full service and repair business. So people just don't come and go a lot because they park their RV for quite a while, and then they'll when they're gone, sometimes they're gone usually for a week, as you guys know, especially if you have your own RV, or a month, or if you're a snowbird, they're gone for 6 months. Or
yeah, there's not a lot of traffic.
There's
There's not a lot of in and out. A lot of people will park the vehicle or truck, RV and boat, and yeah, it can be 6 months or a year before they even move it. So there's not a lot of stuff coming in and out of there. It's mainly for storage. And when they do come in, they'll leave for weeks or months before they even come back.
Yeah, I think a lot of the logistics too will get worked out through site plan traffic,
Yeah.
right in, right outs.
Correct.
That kind of
Right
stuff
in, right
too.
out, yeah.
So. Great. Any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Very good. Mr. Keller.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that, that we send this for approval to the Board of Supervisors, case PZ-016-24 with the 7 stipulations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Lizarraga. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, unanimous? Very good, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our son thanks you. He's going to inherit this. So.
All right, the last item on the agenda is call of the commission. Anybody have any things to discuss for future or otherwise?
John?
Mr. Pranzo.
John, I would like to ask staff for a huge favor. This last package was 654 pages. Moving around on a computer is not a natural act for me. If you could, when you have a document that large, you might include an index where I can go to prospective beginnings of a case without thumbing through that much. I'd appreciate it. Most of it really is over my head, so I'm only looking for the meat.
Yes, sir. We'll see what we can do.
I'd appreciate it.
Just a question, if I may.
Mr. Mooney.
I know Todd isn't here and he was collecting them. Will the bylaws be coming back at some point?
Excellent question. The intent with the bylaws, Todd does have the information put together. Todd and I and Darren have sat down and discussed it. We are going to do, we're trying to schedule right now, a work day with the commission, specifically on training, to where we do P&Z training, state law requirements, key land use cases from a federal level, from a state level that we need to be aware of, maybe a legislative update. And our intent is on that day to have a work session specifically to discuss the bylaws. We've received comments from 3 commissioners. If any of the rest of the commissioners would like to provide us additional comments or perspective changes on the bylaws, we would appreciate that. The other thing that that we talked about when Todd and I and Darren met is some entities have some bylaws that we think are more modern than ours. Or rules. Sorry, I'm saying bylaws, but it's the commission rules. We have some examples from some other entities that we may be sending out for you to look at as well. But the intent is to do that the day that we do the training.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? With that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Hartman, do I have a second? Second. Mr. Mooney? We are done. Thank you, everyone.
We got forms you got to sign.
No. Everyone run.
David,
take your computer and run.
Need to fill out all these forms and get signatures. They all have new iPads. So if you have that for me, that. Yeah, we need the old ones. The old